Hey guys, Tomboy601, and today a little bit of an interesting video for you, a little bit of an off-meta build that we are going to try and test out and just see how well it performs. I did my best American destroyers video, and someone recommended on there running Burke for an accuracy build on the destroyer. So yeah, I was like, you know what? I feel like I haven't really given Burke a chance, and that is definitely evident because when I looked at him, he was level 13 and didn't have even 2 inspirations on him. So, I haven't given Burke a fair shot at the build. So I was like, let's try and build this to give him the best possible chance to be another successful build, and that's just what we did. So, our new Arlie Burke, we're going to be running Bay and Rumble for a little bit of extra range. His base trait, of course, increases destroyer shell grouping, i.e. it's going to be better at further ranges, and you're going to see this range theme kick in for the rest of this video. Our skills that we're using are Quick Fix. Quick Fix is going to allow us to move even when our engines are knocked out. Look at me now. Glass Cannon, which is going to help with shell grouping and dispersion. Sidestep, which is going to boost range and incoming dispersion. And then the legendary skill we are going to be running is Rather Be Torching, which is going to increase our fire chance, because that is what we're going for on this. A bit of a range and fire build. And to assist us with this, we are, of course, running the Fletcher, but instead of the main battery reload modification in the final slot, we are using a legendary gunfire control mod, which is going to boost our range from anywhere between 5 and 10%, but also, give us a little bit of extra damage each time we get a kill. So this should be, in theory, incredibly successful. But let's see how that plays out in the game. We can see we are here on Warrior's Path, and we are taking the long flank route. And it is a bit of a weird way it feels to play Fletcher. Having someone who's always kind of built the gunboat style, been a bit more up close, it does feel weird to play the Fletcher at range, but you're going to see how effective it is to build it at range. With our current build, we have a 12.5 kilometer base firing range, which is pretty good, and of course that's going to go up as we do more and more damage. And then we have a 7% chance to set fire, which, is a little bit higher than the standard. The stock one's 5%, which isn't the best, but 7% we definitely see an increased amount of fire procs. It can go up to 8% if we fully max out Rather Be Torching, but it's a legendary skill. Lots of commander resources sink in. Not 100% sure it would be totally worth it to do that, but you can see what we've done here is basically we set a fire on both of these ships and we switched between them. The idea being is we want one of them to proc their damage control, right? And Nagato proc the damage control, which means it is now open to a permanent fire, and even better for us, there are now torpedoes on the way to Nagato. So if it can get a flood, we will have a perma flood going on Nagato. One nice thing that is definitely playing to our advantage right now is none of the enemy destroyers decided to come out and play on what a side that would have been incredibly successful for them. When you're playing on these warriors, when you're playing on Warrior's Path, you want the ability to get spotting, and you need spotting very much on this side just because of the blind corner that the 2 mountain ranges set up. You need a stealthy ship to be able to basically poke its nose around and see what's there for your teammates. And the enemy destroyers really didn't set their team up for success. And while we're talking about that, Nagato did get hit with a flood and is now perma flooded, and we are going to reap the damage benefits of that. As you can see, we have already racked up 60,000 damage, and it's still climbing. One of the things that I was not expecting is just how well the Fletcher is set up to kind of be this at-range gunboat. You can see we are a relatively small target. We're doing, I'm going to call it okay with avoiding enemy fire, right? We're at 12 kilometers. You don't really want to shoot at a destroyer at 12 kilometers with your main guns when you're a battleship, just because of how bad the dispersion is. And then we also sort of have a dispersion build going on, or an anti-dispersion build going on the Fletcher, making it so that it is even harder for the enemy battleships to hit us. Looking back, maybe we could have put Vine on here as well, though I do think Sims is just the better pick overall, because you can see Nagato just hit us with one shell there and took, what, 3,000 damage out of us, which is just a ton to lose. And at least with Sims, that we have just that little bit extra health to be able to absorb that damage, right? Where if we had Vine, who's to say if that shell would have hit us? But, you know, I have a feeling it probably would, as we get a double fire stacked on Nagato once again. It's kind of spelling the end of his reign, and now we get to concentrate totally on King George. One other fun feature that the Fletcher has that makes it particularly strong in this style of gameplay, which I was not anticipating, is going to be that turret traverse. This style of like long range, almost cruiser-like gameplay, but just being a very small boat firing, is something that I usually associate with the Russian destroyers, that line, because I feel like they have this very similar playstyle as well, where it's all about setting fires at long range, being a mini cruiser. One thing that's become incredibly evident to me that is really nice about the American destroyers is their gun turret traverse. Usually on at least the Russian destroyers, they have a bit slower of a gun turret traverse, and you kind of have to set yourself up with a prominent kiting direction in order to get all of the guns on target, right? You have to kind of choose which direction you're going to want to kite out so that all the guns go over. And if you need to dodge the other way, you're going to be able to use a couple of the guns, but it's going to take a minute in order to then be able to use the rest of your potential firepower. With the American boats, they naturally have a built-in turret traverse that is just incredible. So what ends up happening is, yeah, you can, sit out at these long ranges at what is now 14 kilometers is our max range, and just be kiting. And if you need to go, if you're kiting left and you all of a sudden it's more beneficial to go right, you can make that call, and guess what? It's not going to negatively impact you for long. The guns are going to swing around, and you're going to be able to get the full 5 guns online, being able to set those fires. Speaking of fires, while we make the traverse back to, I would call it, the relevant part of the battlefield, and I think this is one of the other sort of downsides to this build, is we're kind of playing in a very weird location, and therefore it's going to take us time to traverse. Thankfully, we do have the engine boost that's going to allow us to get to a relevant spot on the battle once again. But let's talk about fires. So for 193 hits, we have a 7 fire total so far, which means we have an effective fire chance of about 3.6%, which still isn't great. And I think this may be one of the key letdowns of this build. Mind you, I'm someone who really does enjoy running Daring with a similar build with Grotma's Smart, but when using him on Daring, we have like a 12% chance to set fire, which is kind of nearly double what we have here. So I think that's where you start to get into the realm of like a good fire slinging destroyer. I don't think the 7 to 8% that we get with this build really gets us over the finish line as far as making this a very effective damage over time fire slinging HE build. I just don't think it's there. It's definitely fun, and it's definitely an interesting way to play, and it definitely, if anything, allows us to sort of evasion tank, i.e. We are taking a ship that is usually there just to cause damage and provide spotting, and we are now also making it so it's absorbing damage, because each time a battleship fires its guns, figure it has another 30 seconds until it can do it again. Each time it wastes a salvo firing at us, that is damage that isn't being thrown out and thrown down onto our teammates, which is useful, right? That is a useful skill to have, especially when you're forcing them to fire at such a small silhouette at a long range. I think the only counter to that argument would be, hey, you don't really have a heal. Your HP is incredibly valuable to providing spotting, which is like the most important thing to do. So if you done goof, you're definitely putting your team at a disadvantage. Overall, Do I think this will be the permanent build I keep on the Fletcher? No. But am I happy I tried it out? Abso-freaking-lutely. It was definitely a fun way to try Fletcher and try the American gunboats. Anyways, guys, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.